Hi. So this is kind of an addendum to the last episode that probably wasn't going to be uploaded by the time I do this. So if you're seeing this really soon after, sorry. Considering the title of this is Spoiler Cast or something akin to that. If you're watching this, are interested in the game and haven't seen the end yet, you played yourself. For your knowledge, I picked if you're seeing this early and you're just trying to get my thoughts in passing real quick before you see my LP, because my LP isn't finished uploading or whatever, I picked the My L ending. And I've been seeing, there's hemming and hawing about it. What's the better ending and all that. So this is some thoughts I had on the ending, the world that the game inhabits, a theory by some other YouTuber that I stumbled across. His name is Lord Curry, Khury. I need to try and remember to put a note of that in there. It's just there was a theory that he put forth that I found I can't get it out of my head. I find it to be well substantiated. And then just kind of like how I would write a sequel based on how they wrote the game. As an aside, I just started uploading my LP, and I can't believe in trying to make a world map reference and talking about the world being bigger than it is, I accidentally made a Star Ocean 3 reference, where spoilers for let's see here, Star Ocean Till the End of Time, a 2003 game. Spoiler for a 2003 game. If you haven't played it in 22 years, that's on you. You find out that all of the Star Oceans take place inside of a apparently multi-billion-year-old video game for a higher plane of existence. And that's what I was thinking about at the end of Act. It's the reason why the Act 2 ending didn't blow me away as much, is because the sequel to my favorite game, Star Ocean Second Story, used a similar plot twist where everyone is not real. Give or take minus a couple. But I made a Star Ocean 3 reference by accident at the beginning of the game, and lo and behold, it's very Star Ocean 3. But so I'm making an assumption. My assumption in this game is that an hour in the real world is a year in the painting. At the end of Act 2, during Epilogue Alicia, Clair said they've been in the painting for a long time, but they've been in there longer, so it's nothing we haven't seen before. But the experienced amount of time they were in there was 67 years. So if it's, I'm kind of going with an hour is a year, because if like a minute was a year, then, they would have only been in there for an hour, and Clair wouldn't be so impatient. But if it was a week is a year, if it's something much larger, then it would be like, well, they've been in the painting for longer, so I'm not too worried right now, but also they've been in there for a year and a quarter. And even if it was a day, they'd have been in there for months, which is still believable. A day being a year instead of an hour being a year is believable, but it would still be months. And I feel like if there's a war going on, 2 months and change is an awfully long time, and them having been in other paintings together whilst Clair was at home for multiple months while she was a child, and her finding it to be normal feels a bit out of place. So I'm going with an hour is a year. And that's going to inform my decisions in this going forward. considering the fracture happened 67 years ago, also what's important for my opinions going forward is Aline jumped in the painting and Renoir immediately went, not like I'll give her some time and I'll go there in a few hours knowing that it's been a couple of years. He went in there immediately after her and immediately stopped her. And if he was there even a minute late, it was only a few weeks between her being in the painting and the beginning of the 67-year process of being in Verso's canvas. So one thing I want to get out of the way is it doesn't matter. Doing the verso ending is better because the people who are in the painting don't matter because they're not real. That applies to both endings. When you can't make dismissing the existence of the Lumerians part of your argument, because the Lumerians not existing, not being real, will then if you're saying it doesn't matter if we kill them, then that's a step beyond it doesn't matter if we manipulate them. So that's not a compelling argument as to why the Verso ending would be better than the Mael ending. You can make an argument. By the way, I didn't say this earlier, and I do want to say, if you want to say the Verso ending is better, I'm fine with that. I can see your point. I can comprehend what your decision is. If you want to say the Mael ending is a bad ending, is what my complaint is going to be. Because I thought about both and went back and forth after seeing the Verso ending after finishing the game. So that's my take. Both the endings have their place, and I don't think any one is worse than the other. But I see a lot of people saying, they'll say it's the Mael ending or the Verso ending, and then the rest of the people will say it's the bad ending versus the good ending. And that's where my chief complaint comes in, is, are you calling an ending that you probably didn't think about very hard the bad ending? My camera is tilted. Whatever, it's fine. So this is going to be I wrote some notes down, and it's kind of a stream of consciousness. So it might go back and forth between things. I didn't really sort this. But was Verso... So Verso knows he's not real, and Verso knows that he could be painted out and painted right back in, which might be what happened when they fought each other and he died and he needed to be repainted as an older version of himself. So a lot of this argument is going to be based around Verso is a well-established liar. He wants something, and he wants what he thinks is right, and he has absolutely no qualms about manipulating even the closest people to him to achieve that. He doesn't care if it's his mother, his sisters, his father, his friends. He will lie to their faces to get what he wants. Was him begging at the end of the Mael ending him actually trying to be painted out, him trying to be start over, him trying to be removed, or him trying to say, I know you don't care about you, but do you care about me? If you eliminate me, it'll make it easier for you to go away. Because I think you should go away. So I'm telling you I want to die, but I don't actually. It's not that I want to die. It's that I want you to leave the canvas, and I'm going to play on your emotions to achieve that. Because if he actually wanted to get Alicia out of the painting, if that was his chief concern, then everything he did up to that point, from the end of Act 1 to the end of Act 2, through the beginning of Act 3, where Alicia as Maëlle confronts Renoir, he starts to get gommaged. I'm just going to say Alicia and Maëlle interchangeably, so sorry. You know I'm talking about the same person. And then she brings him back, and then they both leave on Esquier. If he wanted to be removed from the painting, everything up to that point still makes sense. When they go back to the camp, he helps her bring back allies to defeat Renoir. He didn't have to do that. All he had to do was not do that for a few days and say, listen, we have Minoko, we have Esquier, there's me, you, we have a full team of 3, we can give it a shot, you have your painter's powers, and then they would have lost. And that would have been the ending, and that would have been the ending that he wanted. She would have been expelled from the canvas, Renoir would have stepped out, and he would have been wiped out. He absolutely could have done that, and he didn't. He had plenty of time to think about it, and he didn't do it. I do want to also, so I watched a lot of streamers, and one of the ones that I watched beat the game after I beat the game was Asmongold, and he and for the most part his chat were very, very, very on board with the Maëlle ending was the bad ending, and the Verso ending was the good ending, and there was a phrase that was being used about Verso in the opera house with Maëlle having the paint on her face. You kept seeing in the chat, dance monkey dance, like he was being explicitly manipulated, and she was like literally marionetting him. Aline, who made Verso, and Clair, who is allegedly the most powerful painter in the family, couldn't control their own creations. Verso went against Aline to expel her from the canvas. Clair, when she made the white Nevrons, they failed. They failed to do their job of being the threat to the expeditioners that she wanted them to be. And she couldn't mind control them. She could paint over them and make them, she could paint over existing, she couldn't even really paint over her own work. She could paint over other people's work and make it violent and insane. But she couldn't like you see what happens with Simon. Like, she couldn't make Simon whole again, whole and healthy and able to cognitively do what he wanted to do. He basically turned into a beast. So if like the person who created Verso like gave realistic mirroring of life to someone, and also the most powerful painter in the family, both couldn't mind control their creations, how could the weakest painter of the family, Alicia, do it? I think the paint on her face is one of two things. It is not her controlling Verso. It is either a feint, it's just there to deceive you into thinking that, she's mind controlling Verso, because Verso and Alicia before that point nod to each other. He walks on stage, she nods to him, he nods to her, and then he goes over to the painting, and then he pauses, and then you see the paint on her face. They acknowledged each other. He didn't have resistance before getting there. He didn't have resistance until he was about to start playing music. And the paint on her face, again, if more powerful painters than her couldn't mind control their creations, how could she? Remember, during the epilogue Alicia, that Clair had paint on her face while she wasn't painting in the real world, that's just, it seems to be just something that happens to painters. Not like a uncontrolled pseudo vitiligo or whatever, but like whenever they're not being conscious of actively suppressing their act of painting, they can have paint on them. She was not in the painting whilst having the paint on her face. So that could have just been a feint. Also, it could be something else, and I think that something else is Verso is actually getting what he wants. Verso wants a life without conflict. He wants to age. He wants to play piano at a grand hall for a crowd again. And he's worried that Alicia is flirting with being addicted to the painting, the way Renoir was concerned that Alicia would be. I don't think Verso's being controlled. I think Verso is concerned that Alicia is going to go the route that her mother does, even though her mother was already in grief and was isolated and was in conflict the whole time, unlike Aline was, rather. Unlike Alicia, who is now freed from conflict, has a good group of supportive people who understand the circumstances and want the best for her. So Renoir's fears are Alicia is acting like Aline, but everyone's accusations at each other were correct. And that's one of the things that Verso says that was correct, even if it wasn't correct exactly in the way he meant. He says we're all hypocrites doing the same thing to each other. It's because everybody's acting in their own interest. They're not their own. Everybody's acting in their own interest in ways they think is in other people's interests. Like, yeah, Renoir is afraid that Alicia is going to act like Aline and be trapped in the painting for so long that she becomes deathly ill. But also, Alicia said to Renoir, you just want to feel like you're doing something. You want to feel like you're in control. And he, when he started to lose, started screaming, I have to do something. I have to do something. So it's correct that Renoir is looking out for his daughter, but he's projecting his own fears of Aline onto Alicia because he wants to regain control over the situation because he feels helpless. His son is dead. One daughter is on a mad crusade. Another daughter is just getting to the point where she can deal with her grief. His wife hasn't been able to process her grief because she spent 67 years in conflict, grieving her creations, getting more and more, or her son's creations, more and more killed without being able to make peace of it. So, he, instead of jumping in the painting and going to a funeral for Verso in the painting or something like that, he jumps in the painting right away. Again, they were in for about the same amount of time. They've been in there for 67 years, and they haven't been in there long enough for Clair to be concerned, which leads me to believe that they don't live for thousands of years. They live for normal human lifetimes, and when they jump into the painting, that time dilates so severely that 67 years isn't that much time. But if 67 years isn't that much time, and the fracture happened 67 years ago, and Renoir jumped in the painting 67 years ago, then he jumped in the painting and immediately went to war with his wife. So she didn't get a chance to have her grief processing. So the only person who's actually going to have the opportunity to not compartmentalize like Clair and process their grief correctly is Maëlle. And you look at you can only see so much in an ending, especially if the game's going to have a sequel. You don't see what happens the day after the ending in both cases. And more on that when I talk about what I would do if I was to make a sequel. And though I do want to say it's time to stop painting that Verso says, I think that's for the player, not for Verso, because it's at that point the game ends. It's kind of the do you want to go to the end kind of thing. I think that's symbolic in a meta way rather than more specifically to Verso's character, given what leads up to the ending, what is in the ending, etc. Deviating, well, actually, separate section. This is the thing that the guy I mentioned earlier on, Lord Curry, and again, that's Khury. I need to try and remember to put a credit to him somewhere in the comments, not the comments, the description. He put up a theory that, is Verso even actually dead? So Verso is an excellent copy of the real Verso. Verso in Alicia's nightmare isn't like that's a manufactured dream. That would have to be a manufactured dream, because if it's actually like a memory-based dream, if it's like a PTSD nightmare, it would be more realistic. But he's standing in the middle of the fire saying, "You're okay," calmly. During the game, and this is a theory that Lord Curry put forth, and I'm kind of extrapolating some of the things he said and some of the things that I noticed, and I'm elaborating upon points, and I don't know where those two ideas separate and remesh to each other. He said Verso at some point was talking to, I believe, Lune, and they were talking about art, and Lune said, "You're an artist," and he said, "Well, not the kind that my family liked." And then you found out later, or in a different sequence, you find out through the Mael relationship path, social link. I'm going to call it social link. Relationship levels. It's just kind of, I'm going to call it social link for those who know the persona term. You find out that he really enjoyed playing piano at the Grand Hall, and in the real world there's a war between the painters and the writers. This is a very artsy game, and when it comes to, like, I think there's like a guy in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Arc 4 or something like that. You know, I know what happens through Arc 3, and I'm vaguely aware of the later stuff, who could like write things down, and within that paper it would still have power. But, like, you know, what do you think is more realistic? Art conflicting with literary, or a form of art conflicting with another form of art? If you were to try and weaponize something for a war, and the painters have power in the real world, as we saw from Clair having, things floating in the house, and Clair having paint on her face when she's not inside of the canvas, unless the real world is also inside of another canvas and it's some sort of Inception thing, but we're throwing that theory out the window for now. What is more likely? You have the painters that can paint and conjure things in the real world and cast spells using that power, and then writers have to like write down something on a book really quickly and then like read it aloud, or like throw the paper at somebody? Or is it more reasonable that the writers are not writers in a literature sense, but are writers in an artistic sense, and are actually writing music? Are they composers? So are they writing music and they fight using audio? If so, then Verso is an artist, not of the kind that his family wanted, and perhaps Verso, the war was started, and Verso hatched a plot with the writers to defect and Verso burned his room and was supposed to fake his own death, and maybe he spent so much time in the painting trying to make an emulation of himself, so that there would be it didn't have to be a perfect copy, it just had to be superficially identical. If the painters have power in the real world, maybe he was able to make a replication of himself. And that's what was actually in the fire. And then Verso rescued Alicia from the fire partially, but she was still injured in it. And Alicia being injured in the fire was an accident. And he didn't want that for his sister, but at that point he was in too deep. He had to escape and fake his own death, because he was already going to fake his own death, and he defected to the writers. As an aside, so he who guards truth with lies. The truth is he's a writer in his heart of hearts, and he wanted to fight for the writers, but he couldn't just stare his family in the face and betray them. He could only be true to himself by creating a deception that he had died. Addendum to that I don't remember if it was in that video, if it was another one, but everyone in the party is really, really representative of Alicia's family. So, like, is there a controlling factor in the painting that is the part of Verso's soul that was put in the painting to create some sort of exchange that would allow him to get the copy out? Is there some other guiding factor that decided those would be the people that live? Because, so you have Verso, you have Mael, who is Alicia. Hang on a second. I'll just clip that out. So you have Verso, you have Mael, who's actually Alicia. You have, and then you have Minoko, who's a goofy friend, and SK, who's there to always ensure that you never get too sad, no matter how bad your life gets. But beyond that, on the party, you had Gustav, who was a brother and father figure. And he was stern and tried to be in control. And when he wasn't in control, he made bad decisions. You have Lune, the very powerful, very studious, most competent when it comes to Pictos, sister-like figure, older sister-like figure, who is always focused on the mission, ignores her failures, and compartmentalizes in order to succeed. And then you have Ciel, who loses her husband, Renoir, when it comes to a tragedy, and loses her son, or loses her child. Well, actually, I think it is her son, and is carrying the grief for a lot of people. So Ciel is a mother who lost her child. The family is very reflective of. The party is very reflective of Verso's family, and it's kind of specific. So, like, was this all orchestrated by Verso as a bunch of fail-safes? Is it him trying to guide them towards a conclusion by using images in his mind with what he left behind? That last couple sentences was just me kind of getting wordy for nothing extra. The point I made was the points I was making before. How I would write the sequel. Separate section. So here's how I'd write the sequel. And this is the part where I make friends with nobody. Alicia in the painting has gone power mad. The painting has been there for, no one's quite sure. It's kind of like a Portal 2 scenario where some people say it's over 10,000 years, and then you look at the record and it's like 25. Because, you have some broken computers, you look at the deterioration, and it's pretty consistent. Like, things are slightly worse in the areas that are slightly older, and it's pretty consistent that it seems like it's only been like 20, 30 years. Like, so no one knows. It could have been 1 year. It could have been 100 years. But everybody's living the same day, over and over again, a la I keep making references to anime pop culture that I'm only vaguely familiar with, but like the Haruhi Suzumiya sequence where they're trapped in time because want to be trapped in the good times. And they're aware of it, but it's causing problems because Gustav wants to have a family. And CL never gets to have her child again because it's the same day over and over again. Verso feels like he's not able to get Alicia back out of the painting because she's happy being trapped in it forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. If the voice actor for Gustav is hard to get again, then, maybe the moment where she snaps and becomes the paintress again, it becomes the paintress. She kills Gustav. CL, Lune, Minoko, Esquier, and one or two others go on a campaign to expel her from the canvas with Renoir or Clair's help. More references, though I did make a Sword Art Online reference because of the music at the end of Act 2 Une Vie A T-Aimer. It would be like the end of this, I think it was the second arc of Sword Art Online. I watched probably about 10 episodes of it total, where someone is trapped in an inaccessible area, and that's where Verso's soul remains. They go on a campaign to expel her from the canvas with Renoir or Clair's help. The world is a little different because of Alicia's machinations, so they get to reuse some assets. It makes it easy to make a second game, but some things are new. You don't have Renoir's drafts, Clair's areas are all purged. There's new problems that have been manufactured. And then the campaign succeeds. Alicia is expelled, and you discover it wasn't actually Verso's canvas. It was Alicia's canvas. It was the Verso ending, and the night of the funeral, the family having not really gotten closure because of all of the infighting. Alicia dove into her own canvas and made a cheap copy of it, and that's why everything looks a little off. Learning from her mother's mistakes about trying to conserve as much chrome as possible, she uses as little as possible, so the world seems a bit more empty. There isn't quite as much stuff going on there because she's trying to hold on to as much as possible in order to make herself more powerful, so she can't be as expelled as easily. You find out that at the, you think the Verso ending is more conclusive than the Alicia ending, but the Verso ending leads to her diving back into the canvas as a deception, because this game has been very big on deceptions. And because you picked that ending, and Verso's canvas is gone, Aline never gets her own closure. They never shied away from the topic of suicide. In CL's story, it's actually a very important plot point. You find out that Aline, not having gotten closure because she was immediately interdicted by Renoir and then tortured her son's soul for 67 years just to hurt her family more, and then never get closure, takes her own life that night. So the day following, the morning following the funeral, Alicia has been trapping a fake copy of Verso's world, everybody in a fake copy of Verso's world for 10, 12 years at that point, but every day is the same, so it's hard to tell. Aline's dead, Claire's off on her war, and Renoir feels like he has even less control. That would be how I'd write the sequel. It's as grim as they wrote the first one. The working title for the first one was We Lost. They never shied away from topics like that, and they've always been deceptive. Verso's entire story is, I'm lying to you, but I feel like I'm doing it for the right reasons. That would piece together a bunch of those things. And it doesn't matter whether you pick the verso ending or the Mael ending. And if you do the verso ending and lead in the direction that I am describing, you're still allowed to have verso alive and outside. He might even be stronger because if his part of his soul is in the painting, it might get released to him and might make him stronger. And he might feel like, okay, I got what I wanted. My family truly feels like I'm dead now that I've had that piece returned to me, if that's how power exchange works. So that's my theory. And I'm a small enough channel that whenever I get a comment, I get a notification and go, holy shit, someone noticed. So feel free to leave comments. You're not going to do the like, comment, and subscribe. If you found this video, you know where my channel is because it's going to be on my channel. And if you care, you care. And if you don't, you don't. But I will see the comments. And even if I don't respond to all of them, I'm very big on kind of TV tropes dives and Wikipedia dives. I try and soak up the information. So feel very assured that if you're making a comment anytime in the next 6 months or so after this video goes up, I'm definitely reading every single one of them. If you did stay with the video for all 37 minutes minus whatever part I had to get cut out because I had to pause the audio for a couple seconds, thank you. And as I always say, you're rad and I love you. I will see you next time.